Welcome back to our Treatment Thursday, which is actually going to be Muscle Monday Part 2 this week. We talked about the rotator cuff muscle group as a whole and kind of its primary function, so today we're going to break down each individual muscle. First one I like to talk about is the supra. It's called the supraspinatus. That muscle sits right on top of that bony ridge. The action that this muscle does is it actually pulls the first few degrees of motion when you start to raise your arm off to the side. Abduction is what that's called. The test that I use for this in the office is called empty can test or Job test. There's a couple different names for it, but essentially you bring your arm out to the side 90 degrees up to shoulder height and you're putting pressure down. If you don't have any strength with that or is really painful, then you might be dealing with a little bit of a supraspinatus issue. The next one is called the infraspinatus. So instead of being on top, above that bony ridge right there, this muscle sits right beneath that bony ridge right there. This muscle is the primary external rotator of the rotator cuff muscles. A good test for that is honestly elbow glued to the side 90 degrees and then try to bring that out to the side. Try it in a couple different areas. If that's really painful, you might be dealing with a little bit of infraspinatus issue. Teres minor is the next muscle in the group, and it lives right beneath the infraspinatus muscle, so a little further down on the shoulder blade there. The test for this one is called the Hornblower's test. It's a little tough to explain, so you can always YouTube it, but that is what you would use to test this specific one. And then lastly is the muscle called the subscapularis, and that muscle actually lives on the front side of the shoulder blade. So it sits between your shoulder blade and your thoracic cavity, and that is the one muscle of the rotator cuffs that actually does internal rotation. A really good test for that one is to put your hand on your low back with your palm facing out like this, and then you lift off. If you can lift off, you haven't torn it, and if it's reproducing that shoulder pain that you're dealing with, that could be a sign that you're dealing with a little bit of subscapularis issue. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions, and look forward to seeing you at the next Muscle Monday.